What is the greatest comeback to an insult you've ever heard? Joe Pine interviewing Frank Zappa. Joe: I guess your long hair makes you a woman. FZ: I guess your wooden leg makes you a table. During WW1, Switzerland had a tiny standing army, but they were very skilled marksmen. Wilhelm II of Germany asked what 250k Swiss troops would do if he decided to invade with 500k German troops. The Swiss said, "Shoot twice and go home." And that, good sir, is how getting Swiss cheesed got the definition we know today. 18th-century British radical politician John Wilkes was told in Parliament by a political opponent, "Sir, I do not know whether you will die on the gallows or of the pox." Wilkes shot back with, "That depends, my lord, on whether I embrace your lordship's principles or your mistress." Imagine hitting someone with such a fire burn that people are discussing it 250 years later. My grandparents used to bicker. My grandmother generally came out on top, as she was fierier. One time though, she was asking him to do a bunch of stuff, and he muttered, "If you'd lose some weight, you could do it yourself." She fixed her gaze on him, and glowered, "I'm thinking of getting rid of about 200 pounds of useless fat immediately." He replied, "You're going to cut off your foot?" Man, nobody bickers like old married couples bicker. They've had decades to perfect their craft. Someone yelled out in a Walmart, "I'm not ashamed of who I am." Another voice echoed back, "That's your parents' job." Saw a clip of a stand-up comedian the other day, and he says something along the lines of, "The first time I had sex it was terrible. The first time I had sex," and a woman chimes in with, "You mean yesterday?" Crowd laughs for a while, and while the comedian is waiting for them to calm down, you can see the gears turn in his head. Once it gets down to basically a few chuckles, he just says, "Glad you remember," and the crowd just lost their shit. It was amazing. I used to work with this like 70-year-old woman. She was our supervisor, and one day one of the ladies who worked with us told this old lady to kiss my ass, and the old lady replied, "Where do I start? You're so fat your crack goes all the way up your back." A guy makes fun of his bald friend by rubbing his head and saying, "Wow, your head is as smooth as my wife's bottom." The friend also rubs his head and says, "Wow, you're right." Quiet guy in my art class got called queer bait. He replied with, "If I'm the bait then you're the catch of the day." I was the one insulted, but not the one with the comeback. I was out with a coworker and her friends, and my buddy and I were leaving a little too early for her sensibilities. She jokingly got up in my face and said, "Smell that? Smells like P***y. A guy playing at the pool table next to us stepped forward and said, "I'm sorry, that must be me. I just ate. It was amazing." Not heard, but read. Easily the Spartans reply to Philip II of Macedon. As Philip II of Macedon was conquering Greek city-states left and right, Sparta was left alone. Philip had achieved a crushing victory, and Sparta was relatively weak and without walls. Philip sent a message to the Spartans saying, "If I invade Laconia you will be destroyed, never to rise again." The Spartans replied with one word, "If." My grandma asked my cousin, who'd had lots of partners and 2 kids at this point, if she was ever going to get married. Cousin: "It's not the same nowadays. We don't buy cars without test driving them first." Grandma: "Yeah, but they don't let you put 100,000 miles on them either." Point goes to Granny. A friend of mine was getting bitched at by these 2 identical twin girls in a class one had once. He replied with a troubling look on his face and said, "If you 2 are identical, how come only one of you are hot?" That dude played the long game as those 2 girls looked rather perplexed for the rest of the session. In middle school, a boy asked when I was going to grow some breasts. So I asked him when he was donating his. I'm still really proud of that one. Edit. I didn't expect this to blow up. But I remember this clearly. He was walking out of English, I was walking in. We met at the doorway and were chest to chest. And he looks me in the eye and says, "Grow some TS." Without missing a beat I reply dead-faced, "Donate yours." Then proceed to proudly walk to my desk with a big smile. Also I did eventually grow some. They are small but they are nice. Context. * John Oliver from HBO interviews Stephen Hawking. J. O. And there may be a universe where I am more intelligent than you. S. H. There may even be a universe where you are funny. Anything I've thought of more than an hour after the insult. The French have a phrase for this. Esprit d'escalier, or the spirit of the staircase. The witty retort you think of as you are leaving down the front steps. The greatest comeback I witnessed was when Kumail Nanjiani was on Mean Tweets and someone asked, "Is your DK multiple colors?" And he said, "Yes, every shade of your mom's lipstick." What are you looking at? I'm still trying to find out. On a construction site one afternoon, different trades were working in the same area. Like silly team sports, the Sparkies always hang with the Sparkies and the Turd Wranglers always hang with the Turd Wranglers, and any time they're together it turns into a pointless DK measuring contest, usually not literally. One particularly childish exchange saw two men chopping back and forth, "My DK biggest, blah blah blah." Finally one of them spits out this classic, "I've got girth like a can of corn." And the clapback was unforgettable, "But you've got length like a can of tuna." Everyone busted up. Mr. Girth tried to hide his embarrassment, but was tied up. No comeback. And a room of men laughing uncontrollably. Good times. A friend in high school on our way to a track meet. He was staring at a car in the parking that was really nice. When this DBAG saw him. D-bag. Why bothering looking at that when you know you'll never be able to get one? My friend. The same reason you watch porn. The entire bus erupted and it's still one of the funniest things I've ever heard. It was an exchange between two co-workers a few years back. Basically a slut-shaming gone wrong. Person A had only ever slept with one person, their previous boyfriend that they were still obsessed with. Person B was the opposite and would bang a different person every week. Person A. I can't believe how many people you've slept with. I don't understand how people can have sex with someone they aren't in love with. Person B. Well, your ex-boyfriend seemed to manage it okay. Person A. Silence as he dies inside. My grandma got into a fight at the grocery store with a guy who told my 9-year-old brother to move the F out of the way. They were going at it and his final words were, "Suck my DK, bitch." She said across the store, "If I could find it, bitch." The classic, "You're adopted. At least my parents chose to have me." Had a friend growing up who had an adopted brother a year or so younger. They would always talk shit and fight a bit here and there, and one time my friend says to his brother that he was adopted and can go fuck off. He knew he was adopted, and without missing a beat he shot back at my friend, "Yeah, well, clearly you weren't enough for mom and dad. That's why they bought me." Yes, he used the word bought. Glenn McGrath, Aussie cricketer, got frustrated with Ed O'Brien's as his every attempt to stump Brands failed. This is what happened next. McGrath: "Why are you so fat?" Brands: "Because every time I screw your wife, she gives me a biscuit." Definitely a great comeback, but not to an insult, more to an annoyance. I was a camp counselor for a few years at a summer camp. One day my group took a hike to a large rock where we had lunch. My campers were between 8 and 10 years old. This one kid we'll call Jeff keeps poking another kid we'll call Matt in my group to, "Look at this hole in the rock, it's so cool, it's like 6 inches deep." And the other kid is clearly getting annoyed just trying to eat his lunch. He keeps shoving sticks into the hole and trying to get everybody to look at it. Finally Matt just puts down his sandwich, looks at Jeff, and goes, "I'll be 6 inches deep in your mom later if you don't shut up." I was trying so hard to be stern with this kid for saying something so inappropriate, but I kept cracking up. It was just such a disproportionately ridiculous thing to say coming from a 9-year-old. Gandhi after a reporter asked him a question. Reporter: "What do you think of Western civilization?" Gandhi: "I think it would be a good idea." I can't remember the best one I've heard asterisk, but I can remember the best comeback I ever did. It is also, in fact, the only good comeback I ever did. I was in 7th grade, and we were in the locker room after gym. People were discussing shoe sizes because this one kid had enormous feet. I don't know if I have small feet, but mine were the smallest. They said, "Small feet, you know what that means." I didn't mind too much, but one kid crossed the line. He said, "Don't worry, fella. There's like 10 different ways to make it bigger." So I said, "Have you tried all 10? Not very impressive, but it shut him up. You peaked so early. I work at a hotel. A few years ago this guest got into a spat with our security officer over something, but she wasn't getting whatever she wanted, so she told him he was full of shit. Our security officer replied immediately, "No, I'm not. I took care of that this morning. But thank you for your concern for my good health and regularity." At this time I was about to bust up laughing, so I had to excuse myself to the back office, and as I was leaving I heard him continuing on with this lady, Deadpan, "But I promise I eat a healthy diet full of fiber. It warms my heart to know you're concerned with me having regular bowel movements. So the next time I'm constipated I know you're thinking of me." It continued on, and all the more he's playing this Deadpan and it's making the lady madder and madder, and I'm in the back laughing so hard I'm nearly crying. After that spiel was over though, she didn't give us any more problems the rest of the night. I was bullshitting with a couple of buddies, and may have suggested that I banged one of their moms, to which said friend replied, "My mom's dead." My mouth bypassed my brain and replied, "That explains the dirt." Overheard by me, the school bus driver, one 5th grade student was belittling a 1st grader. When it was time for a comeback, 1st grader shouts out, "Congratulations." The bewildered 5th grader had nothing to say and went to sit down with her friends in the back of the bus. A dude in my class called out a semi-friend of mine, that people are talking behind his back. In fact, that wasn't the case, as far as I know, and that guy said, "Well, you know what they say about you. Nothing. Nobody fucking cares. I don't care that you broke your elbow." Many years ago, when we were about 18, a friend of mine was arguing with another person we knew. This person was trying to be a badass and intimidate my buddy. He says, "My feet are registered." Without missing a beat my friend replies, "Where? Health and sanitation?" 40 years later I still crack up at this when it comes to mind. Chelsea handler told Russell Brand, "The way you're looking at me makes me wants to cover my vag asterisk." He replied, "Mom, if I had a rubber glove, I'd do it for you." Crowd burst into laughter and she even acknowledged, "That was good." It's gotta be the Aliens locker room scene for me. Hudson. "Hey Vasquez. Have you ever been mistaken for a man?" Vasquez. "No, have you?" Edit. Brain derped with the film title. I have a bunch, but one of the more memorable ones was back in 8th grade. For context, I didn't make the basketball team 7th grade, but I made the team in 8th grade. This kid that was on the team the previous year but didn't make it currently was really upset and telling me how bad I am and blah blah blah. I told him that if he is better than me then why didn't he make the team, and he replied with, "It's just cause of my grades, bro." So I replied with, "Oh, so you're just fucking stupid then?" He gave up cause it was either accept that he was bad or accept he was an idiot. So English class in middle school. Kid A, "Yo, Kid B, your mama waited on me at McDonald's last night. Must feel like shit having a mom that works at McDonald's." Kid B, "At least my mom gets out of bed to go to work." English teacher far louder than he realized, "Dame." The rest of us were laughing so hard, the teacher next door popped her head in to see what was going on. I was 14 or 15 and had a quiet nerdy friend with really bad acne. My older brother had these 3 friends, all brothers 2, 3, and 4 years older than me and my friend. They were all gangster, and started their own gang, which I always thought was really funny. Me and my friend walked in the front door. My brother and his friends were all sitting at the TV playing Halo. One of the brothers looked at my friend and said, "Holy shit Sam, I got 2 words for you, ACNEE pads." Sam replied, "Cool, and I got 2 words for you, Johnny speech therapy." The guy had a pretty bad stutter. He jumped right up and started trying to fight my friend. As long as I could remember after that he wanted to fight Sam, but we just ignored them. I dunno why this stuck with me for so long. It was such perfect delivery and shut down of a bully. I was 13 years old, carrying a bunch of books for the teacher. Some joker thought it was funny to pretend to fall right in front of me. I told him, "Don't fall for me, man." My whole book-carrying crew and his prank crew all started bursting into laughter. I didn't register what had happened until much later. So there was two girls fighting, and one of them looks at my sister, who was minding her own busyness, and says, "You go to hell too." My sister: "Do you want me to say anything to your mom?" This happened about 5 years ago now. There was this one annoying kid in my math class in high school. Being loud, ignoring the teacher. He was mixed race. Only bringing this up because it's related. He's talking rather loudly with a guy next to him. Teacher tells him, "Shut the hell up." Kid makes a point that he's half black and being mean to him is racist. Some stupid shit like that. Teacher looks him dead in the eyes and says, "I was talking to your white half, stupid." Hands down my favorite teacher. I went to Catholic school and the teacher said, "There's a special place in hell for people like you," and I said back, "See you there." In class someone used the F-slur on someone and he replied with, "I'm probably as straight as the pole your mom dances on." Back in high school, I was in the orchestra. We went on several big national trips each year. One year, a group of upperclassmen were busted for pot in their hotel room. Everyone except one guy was suspended and prohibited to attend future trips. The one guy who wasn't in trouble apparently hid in the shower and played dumb, and they believed him. So a week later, the entire orchestra is practicing with the teaching assistant when our conductor enters the practice room, and in front of the entire 114 members of the orchestra, says, "Jason, all your friends ratted you out. They're mad. I'm mad. You played me like a fiddle." "That's what I play," Jason replied, raising his violin. An older guy the first used to work with was overweight. Had big old belly that hung out past his belt. This skinny punk always made fun of him, even touched his belly and would say comments like, "When are you expecting?" etc. Finally he had enough one day. The skinny guy said, "Damn, your belly is so big." The old guy replied, "It's because your wife likes sucking dick in the shade."